My name is Sean McGuire, and I was addicted to vaping nicotine for 2.5 years. How I got started was really a classic case of peer pressure. A few of my friends that were going to a private school where Juul had started making its way around had gotten one for themselves. And we would go places like we would go to the beach, and they would rip it in front of me, and they told me that they got a crazy head rush from it, a buzz we called it. They kept trying to get me to try it. I knew myself. I knew that I have an addictive personality and I get obsessed with things. So I resisted the desire to try it at first. They kept trying to get me to try it, I said, screw it, I'll try it. And the first time I hit it, it hit my throat, and I just coughed my lungs out. I couldn't take it. It was a terrible feeling. I hated it. What my friends told me to do was to open my lungs, open my throat, and inhale it. And I hit it a few more times, coughing my lungs up a few more times, and then I finally got it. I opened my throat, I was able to inhale it deep into my lungs, and I felt that first buzz. At first, it felt great. It was just a crazy head rush. You forgot about everything else you were worrying about at the moment, and it was just a nice it was a nice release valve for your brain. Right off the bat, I didn't get addicted. At first, it was just something fun. It was just something we did as a group together. You know, we would hang out. My friend had just gotten his first car, so we'd drive around back home, and we would just rip it, pass it around in the car, get a nice buzz, laugh about it, and it was just like a communal friendship thing to do. We were at my friend's house, and we were ripping it, and I asked him if I could borrow his for the night, because I wanted to keep ripping it. He told me I could borrow it for the night. He gave it to me for the night. I went home and started FaceTiming these two girls I was friends with at the time, and back then I was awkward around girls. It was like a good stress reliever. I would rip it, I would get the head rush, and then I wouldn't feel awkward. I would feel cool. And I was just ripping it, getting buzz after buzz after buzz. And I remember the whole night was just, my head was in the clouds. It was just crazy. After that night, I went and brought his back to him, and then I went to the store and bought my own. At first, you get buzzes every time you hit it. Like I said, when I first started, we were passing it around. We were each getting a buzz off 1, maybe 2 hits, max. After the 6-month mark, maybe a year, is when you're not really getting any kind of stress relief from it anymore. You're actually getting increased stress, because whenever you don't have it, you feel anxious. You feel like you need it, because if you don't have it for too long, you start going through withdrawals, and then your anxiety spikes, and then you're searching for it, but you don't have it. The novelty of it is pretty much gone, and you're getting 1, maybe 2 buzzes a day if you're lucky. I guess you could get a buzz if you took like 2 or 3 hours off of hitting it, but you would only get a small buzz, and it was only because you started going through withdrawals. So it would be like it's almost like you would have to starve yourself of it. You would have to go low in order to get back to that high. And that's the problem, is once you're hooked on it, you need the nicotine to keep you at your baseline. Okay? If you don't have your nicotine for anything longer than half an hour, that's what I was at my point. I was very addicted. You go down. You keep going down, and so it's just a terrible feeling. Keep going down until you get more. What are some of the other effects from it? I was distanced from my family. I was disconnected, because I always had to keep my door locked for fear that my mom or my dad would walk in and catch me right in the middle of hitting this thing. I was paranoid. I was paranoid of, like I said, my mom and my dad catching me. I was also paranoid of my teachers catching me, because I had to bring it to school. I was paranoid of having my bag searched once they became a little bit more aware of it. I was having mood swings. I was just not in a good place. It also became like a device for... It was a device for social connection from the very beginning, but once it really caught on with the general public, with people generally my age, is when it became like almost a status symbol. Because I would be at a party and someone wouldn't have one and they really want to hit it. Now, these people might not even be addicted, but they just hit it for fun at parties or whatever, and then I would be able to give that to them, and that's like a way to make friends. And that's a big part of what it was. But absent the social aspect, the addiction is you laying in bed at home and you need to keep hitting it or else you'll start feeling like shit. And it just puts you in a very bad place. You lose respect for yourself, because I tried quitting multiple times before I actually pulled the trigger, set the ultimatum, and did it. And each time you fail, you lose a little bit more respect for yourself. Yeah. So you can't focus, you can't think clearly, you're anxious all the time. It's just an awful way of living. I had tried to quit multiple times before, and each time I had failed. I had made it a few days, I made it 3 days once, and I caved and went to this place, Global Mart, that we all used to go back in my area. My parents told me that they were planning a big trip across the country. They were going to take a road trip from where I'm from in South Florida all the way across out west, out Idaho, Nevada. They went to see the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, just a trip of a lifetime, really was. And I had been wanting to quit for a while, but I knew it wouldn't be possible with my family in the house, because I knew how much stress, how much anxiety, and how off I would feel. I wouldn't be able to do that with my family in the house. So when I heard them say that, I said to myself, okay, this is your time. I set myself an ultimatum. I said, you have a perfect opportunity. Take a few weeks off work. I'm going to get everything I need. I'm going to have food. I'm going to have water. I'm going to get everything that could possibly remind me of nicotine, any old pods from my Juul or Fix or anything that could remind me of nicotine, get it out of the house. I don't want it in my vicinity. I'm not going to hang out with my friends who vape. I'm going to stay away from anything that could possibly urge me to have nicotine. Basically, I set my environment up in a way that withdrawals would be as easy as they could be. I was watching movies, I was watching TV, I was taking walks outside. I literally locked myself down and I told myself, it's now or never. If you don't quit now, then you're never going to try again. This is it. I was sick of being a slave. I was sick of losing the respect I had for myself. I was sick of not being in control of my emotions. I was sick of not being in control of myself. I was sick of not having any discipline. I was sick of feeling reliant on this thing that I knew was unhealthy for me. So I made a decision. I made myself an ultimatum, and I stuck to it. And that's what I needed to do. I set my environment up in a way that would limit my urges as much as possible. And I said, it's now or never. How did my life change after quitting? So many ways. I don't want to exaggerate, but it's hard not to. I could think more clearly. I was less anxious. I could breathe better, more self-control. What else? There's so many. I felt more stable. I gained a massive amount of respect for myself. I had increased focus. I could focus again. I had my discipline back. I was proud of myself. I obviously spent less money because at the rate I was going, I was having a pot a day. That's $35 a week. Now, that's not so much for someone on a full-time salary, but for a 17, 18-year-old, that's all my Christmas money is I was spending on getting not even buzzed, on just maintaining my addiction. And that's what this is all about, at the end, it wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't getting anything out of it besides maintaining what I should have normally been at anyway, which was my baseline. What else changed after quitting? There's just so much. Like, I went through some of the first order effects, but one of the second order effects was I met a real estate investor. I've been interested in money for a long time. He would talk to me about money and real estate while we were working out. And one day he told me, he says, hey, let's go check out some of my buildings. I want to show you my buildings. So I went and got in his car and we drove around for 2-3 hours just checking out all his buildings. He has something like a dozen buildings in South Florida. So we're going around, we're talking, and I was just thinking, like, man, if I was still addicted to nicotine at this point, either one of two things would have happened. Either I would have been going through massive withdrawals and I wouldn't have been able to focus, and I wouldn't have been able to form the relationship I did with this person who I ended up working for over a year, and then met other people who I later worked for through that and learned so many skills. Or I would have had to hit it in front of him, and I know the type of person he is. He would have lost so much respect for me if he saw me addicted to that thing. And you have to remember, that's how a lot of people think of it, and that's how it is. You're chained to this thing, and you don't have the self-respect or the discipline to get off it. And that, I don't want to be harsh. I don't want to put it all on you, because there's been deceptive marketing tactics, especially towards youth. But at a certain point, you have to say, listen, now's the time. I have to step up. You know, do I want to live a better life or not? Do I want to stay chained to this thing forever or not? Because that's really what it is. If you just roll over every day and say, I'll do it tomorrow, well, tomorrow will never come. It'll never happen. You really have to tell yourself it's now or never. I met a girl that I've fallen in love with. She thinks vaping's disgusting. And I just, I've told her before, I was like, me and you never would have been together in high school, just because I was a completely different person than I am now. And I'm proud to say that, because I've grown as a human since then. My relationship with my parents has gotten so much better and so much deeper since I quit, and since I was able to be honest with them about it, about my addiction, because my mom knew what I was going through. She had been addicted to cigarettes for, I think, the better half of a decade. Afterwards, after I'd gotten off it, I felt comfortable enough to talk to her about it. And talking to her about it, and talking to my dad about it, and just being open with them, just improved our relationship dramatically. There's just so many benefits. There's there's the first order, there's the second order, there's the third order. It's one of those paths that I took in my life that completely changed everything. And it's I can't even sit here and list all of them, because it's not possible. I literally can't. So that's my story. I was an addict for 2.5 years, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt that quitting nicotine was one of the best things I've ever done. It was difficult, it was tough, but it was so rewarding. If you take one thing away from this video, be it that by vaping nicotine, you're signing a deal with the devil. It's sapping away your potential and your happiness.